Hey, Mindshifters. This is really important to me. This is the financial part of my channel. And I want to highlight that, student loans, do not take student loans. Um, and so I was reading this article about this memo from Navient, and we're going to go through it together. But my loans started with Sally Mae, and then I think Navient bought some of the Sally Mae loans, or there was some sort of merger. And like I said, unfortunately, I'm nearing 20 years of paying my student loans. I just want to encourage those that, are planning to go to college that you can do it without student loans. You can cash flow it. And that means that you can work during the summers, you can work part time. You do not have to go to a name school. Really think about what your profession, what your earning potential will be. And I'll also show you a video with my son as we walk through Anthony O'Neill's debt-free degree um, at a later time. But let's go through this article. How this new Navient memo affects your student loans by Zach Friedman. A new unsealed internal memo from Navient, one of the nation's largest student loan servicers, may shed light on how Navient is managing your student loans. Here's what you should know, or here's what you need to know. Navient memo, the memo which was written in June 2010, details Navient's strategy to service federal student loans. Today, Navient services more than $300 billion in student loans for more than 12 million borrowers. The portion of the memo that potentially has raised eyebrows relates to forbearance, which I actually have my loans in forbearance, guys, which allows you to pause payments on your federal student loans. Our battle cry remains, forbear them, make them relinquish the ball, the memo states. Said another way, we are very liberal with the use of forbearance once it is determined that a borrower cannot pay cash or utilize other entitlement programs. Generally speaking, out of every 10 resolved U.S. Department of Education borrowers, 7 will forbear, 1 will pay cash, and 2 will use a deferment. Um, and 2 will use a deferment or some other entitlement. That mix is likely to change over time as we improve our ability to communicate the benefits of and fulfill other programs such as income-based repayment. The allegation, according to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, CFPB, is that Navient recommended that borrowers choose forbearance rather than an income-driven repayment program. Why is that difference important? Let me tell you why, guys. Student loan repayment. With forbearance, you pause payments on your federal student loans, typically for a temporary period, until you can afford to make student loan payments again. While your payments are paused, the downside is that interest will still accrues on your federal student loans, so forbearance costs you more in the form of additional interest. Rather than pause payments, income-driven repayment plans enable you to make student loan payment based on your income, family size, and other factors. With income-driven repayment plans, your payment may be as small as $0 per month. While interest also accrues with income-driven repayment plans, you can receive student loan forgiveness on your federal student loans after 20 years for undergraduate loans or 25 years for your graduate student loans. The evidence unsealed in federal court confirms that Navient's practices that added billions of dollars of debt to struggling borrowers emanated from the top echelon of the company. Seth Frotman, executive director of the Student Borrower Protection Center, told the Washington Post. The time has come for policymakers to admit that this company's practices are predatory and corrupt. It should not be given a single additional taxpayer dollars. So, I'm going to leave this article in for you guys, but I just again want to encourage those who are considering taking out loans to not do so. My son and I had this discussion about, the college experience and that the myth behind that. And I really wish I had went to community college and then transferred to a four-year university. And also my MBA, that's a whole nother story. Like I could have had my last employer pay for that MBA years ago, but I was just so on this path to just getting a degree. And I remember going into the school that I got my MBA from, and they just had us set up in the FAFSA. And a lot of times I'm like, well, I don't need this much money. And they were like, no, that's okay. You may need to buy books and things like that. And what I realized, a lot of people borrow more than what they actually needed to supplement their income. And going back to that time too, I did as well, especially as a single mom. My son was younger. And I do remember feeling like, oh, I'm going to school and I kind of got a refund. I don't know. That kind of makes sense, but I'll walk you guys through that later. But I just think, one of the reasons why I'm following Dave Ramsey and his plan, and I like the certain personalities on his talk show or podcast or whatever it is because student loans is the new slavery business, in my personal opinion. And it's purposeful, and they try to get into your mind that you actually need to go to a certain type of school to get a certain type of degree, but they don't talk to the kids about earning potential. And I just remember being in the auditorium my freshman year, and I'm like signing for documents that would be like, I mean, I don't understand the commitment. And a lot of people say, well, you're 18, you made that choice. And this is my part in trying to educate someone 18 or older who's thinking about that they need to get use student loans. Don't do that. And you'll see my other type of quote unquote side hustles and part-time jobs to really tackle my debt. And and my student loans is like the last before my home. But I'm telling you, if you're young, so especially my son, he's a certified lifeguard. He makes really good wages. He can work at different pools at the colleges, or he works at the local community. He's also, applying to UPS and FedEx and just different other jobs. So just, I'm going to be delivering pizzas and cleaning part-time at my full-time job. So after that, I'll clean, toilets and different things like that. And then on the weekends, I'll deliver pizzas. So there's ways to, especially if you're young. I don't have as much energy as I used to, but if you're young, you can definitely find ways to go to school debt free. And if you have an opportunity to stay at home with your parents, even if they're asking for like $300 in rent, do that because you still come off way cheaper. Anyways, this article is a really good article. It talks about 4 ways that you can understand all your student loan options, student loan refinancing, student loan consolidation. I'm going to do a video on that. I really wish I didn't consolidate my loans, and I'll get into that later in another video. Income driven repayment plan, student loan forgiveness. And that's kind of a thing when I look at the election or just leading up to the election, I tend to vote more progressive or liberal or democratic. But that's the one thing I actually disagree with. And hopefully you guys will be open to discussion. I think if we have student loans, we should just pay our student loans. But I think moving forward, there should be other ways that we encourage people to the workforce and to be working members of society and to earn a wage, a living wage. And we should we should do away with student loans. Anyways, I hope this helps someone. I'm going to leave this article, How This New Navient Memo Affects Your Student Loans. Again, seems like this article was written September 30th, 2019, but this memo is from 2010. But you can tell that there's your practices. When I called this summer about, I wasn't able to pay my student loan payment, they did not talk about income driven payment. They immediately encouraged me to do forbearance. And of course, I had to sign this, just sort of like this acceptance or consent. So essentially, it took me out of, I guess, a 20 or 25-year loan forgiveness. So, anyways, like I'm going on 20 years. So I just wanted you guys to be aware. Do not take any loans from Sally Mae, Navient, or private student loans. If you need student loans, you cannot afford it. And that does not mean that you can't go to college or that you can't reach your dreams. It may mean it's going to take a little while longer to do so. And that is okay. All right, mind shifters, bye.